what you need to, address moving into, well, now that you're in spring practice.
Right. Yeah, Matt. Obviously there were several things. I think the first piece that we take a lot of pride on, and you talk to any levels of football, certainly taking care of the ball. And so I think when we look at that, that's a big focal point for us. And it always has been, and even was in the fall, and never been really involved in that type of a deal, but it was what it was. And so I think it's that piece, but there's a lot of pieces that we're kind of working on, I guess, in a nutshell, to kind of really improve everything. One of the pieces that we've had a chance now to do since we've kind of been able to go through spring here is communication. It's a communication piece. It's the strain piece. It's being disciplined. And we felt when we reviewed everything, it's all those little factors that we needed to touch on and improve. At the end of the day, as you guys know, it's about executing, and we didn't execute very well. And so, that's what our big focal point is know what we need to do, know how to get there and go get it done. And once amongst you do all that, you got to take care of the rock and do those things. So it's really been a comprehensive deal and a comprehensive approach. And, I feel we've already made huge strides in the few days we've been out there in spring compared to where we ever were in the fall. So I'm really excited about that.
And you've been part of, installing a new offense at different schools before. And obviously this past year was unique in that respect, but is there anything you've maybe been able to take away, carry over from one stop to the other, as far as what you notice guys picking up a little bit most in year two, where you see the most improvement?
Yeah, I think I think a lot of it is just a familiarity with things, now that we've kind of been through it, and, we're fortunate to get, obviously spring ball this spring, which we didn't get last year. And so, we really kind of started back over, but I think just the been around it, obviously, when you really look at football and a lot of things that a lot of people do, obviously you guys know there's a lot of commonalities. And I think the biggest thing is that language piece, learning that language piece. And now that guys have been around it more, I feel like that's much more fluid. We're able to communicate it. So once we can communicate, we can execute better. And so I think that's one of the biggest things. And I'll be honest, what's really been nice too, is since we've had a chance to, as a staff, even to kind of be back together postseason, start of the new year, is just for us to kind of go back through everything as a staff, because, that all got blown out of whack, kind of when we had first gotten here with the timing of everything and what we're all dealing with. So that's even been really good for us as a staff to really get in depth of everything that we're doing. And I think that's going to pay dividends for us.
Thanks, Jay.
You bet.
Our next question, Lindsay, we'll get to you next. We'll go to Chris Solari, the Detroit Free Press. I know Chris has got something. So Chris, we'll go to you next.
Hey, Jay, good to see you. I'm in a dark studio, so I can't be seen. So wanted to ask you about the run game in particular. We always know so much that, Coach Cap and Coach Tucker talked about the run game, quote unquote, being putrid. But if you look back at it, what caused that? What were the driving factors that caused the run game to languish so badly?
I think it was multiple things. I think it's again, a lot of it was I think doing what we needed to do better. That's my essence, and that comes with time and with practice and with preparation. And I think it's that and the understanding of overall what we're doing, from the quarterbacks being very involved to the run game, and that goes to the O-line. And so that's, Chris, where I see the biggest deal is just that understanding, that comprehensive level, and then once you do that, then hopefully we can do things better fundamentally. And then once, if we're not thinking about it and we're that and we're better that way, then obviously your physical talents can take over, and then we can execute things at a higher rate as far as being better fundamentally. And if you can do that, then you're going to give yourself a chance. So I think it was all those things, quite frankly, is that and kind of moving guys around and different injuries, and, different things you dealt with that everybody dealt with. So that is what it is. But I think that's the main thing that I see.
Our next question, we'll go back to Lindsay Huddleston. Lindsay?
Never a problem deferring to Chris Solari at all. Jay, good to see you. I know we're not talking to just the fans, but what's the common misunderstanding that fans have when they think that you can just curate this instant offense? Like, you're in now, you got new quarterbacks. Hey, where's the offense? Like, can you talk a little bit about that common misnomer and kind of educate people a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, offense is a pretty unique thing in my opinion. We've got, as we've kind of been the focal point of our discussion so far here today, is it's a good challenge now to get 11 dudes all going in the same direction. And then you couple that with what you're doing with the multiplicity that you see from the opponents, and when you're new, and that's trying to get that. And then, I mean, yeah, I've been with Cap and I've been with Coach Piegler and Coach Tuck, but you still got other guys on our staff that are new. So there's a lot of gelling that has to happen. And that takes time. That, we always talk about in our system, and a focal point of our system is being process driven. That process takes a while, and then just, obviously the other things that we all know what occurred. So, I think it's all those things. It's all those things that just kind of getting everybody, that's the unique thing about offensive ball, man. You got to be all rolling the same way. And if there's one guy that isn't, it can be detrimental. If that one guy would have been right, well, it might have been a 15-yard gain, but if he's wrong, it might be -2. And there you're sitting at 2nd and 12, and you're like, okay, now what the hell do I call? You know what I mean? So it's really that give or take a little bit of both things. So that's how I see it.
Great. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Our next question will go to Stephen Brooks with 24/7 Sports.
Hey, Jay, hope you're doing well. Wanted to ask you about Anthony Russo in a couple of respects. First, his competitiveness. I know that's something Mel has said. He always wants his QB to be the #1 competitor. Just curious how he factors out there. And also his ability to pick up this new scheme, because I know at Temple he went through, I believe, 3, maybe 4 different systems. So he's done this before. I'm curious how it's been in terms of him picking that all up.
Yeah, so far Roos has done a very, very comparable job. I do feel for the most part that you mentioned about the competitive spirit, and I think he's very good there. I really do. And we look at it at all different facets. I mean, one of the first ways we look at that is really when you're not in the football field, but more with Coach Novak and the strength and conditioning piece. And, he kind of had a little setback in the fall and then some COVID things in the fall. So, but once he got back here and kind of got back in that routine, he's really done a nice job there. And then, as you mentioned, he's been through a lot of, I think, transition and change there at his previous stop. And so he's handled it really well. But just like anything, and just like any good football players, and particularly at the quarterback spot, you got to work at it. And he's been showing that he's willing to do that. He's really putting in a lot of time to try to learn it and learn the new language and all the things that go with it. And so far he's done a very nice job.
And what about you guys, just on-field football stuff? I mean, is he the guy that you saw on film and basically so far the guy that you guys were hoping for?
Yeah, to this point, it's been very positive. I think if you look back to his at Temple, I think he's a strong thrower and he's really demonstrated doing some positive things there. And so that's where I think kind of his strong point is. And he's coupled that with doing some good things mentally. So yeah, it's been transitioning, because you never know on that. Like you mentioned, it's always hard to know, is it going to transition from the meeting room to the field? But so far it's been very positive.
Thank you.
Question will go to Eli McCown of the State News.
Hey, Coach Johnson, hope you're doing well. So going back to the run game a little bit, you've added a lot of transfers this year and added a lot of new players to that room. It's a pretty deep room. So I guess, how have you felt they have progressed over the season? And do you anticipate having a little bit more of a running back by committee as you did last season?
Yeah, I think it will be very similar to that. We've added some new players that have joined us mid-year, and the end result of that is to get more competition, because we think it will make everybody better. And so, yeah, I definitely feel that there's going to be, with those additions, we're already improved there, and it's making guys competitive. But at this point, I would definitely say, it's running back by committee. And I think once we go, we only had one scrimmage, so, it's hard to know all that, but they've all shown positive signs, which I think is good, because we'll keep that competition going. And that's just going to raise our bar. And that's our end goal as far as when we bring new student athletes in here, is to raise that bar of competition. And so far that's happened at that spot. And so we'll be better for it in the future.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it.
Our next question, I'll make sure everybody gets at least one. We'll go to Paul with Spartan Magazine. Paul?
Yeah, Jay. Hey, I wanted to ask you about another question on Anthony Russo. He had he put up a lot of numbers at Temple, had some high interception numbers in addition to high touchdowns. I wondered what you saw on film in terms of, why you think maybe his interception numbers are up and what he can do to kind of take that component of his game and kind of improve it?
Right. I think there's a couple things, Paul. I think the big thing, what you find is when you get a pretty talented quarterback that particularly has good talent, arm talent, sometimes guys think they can make every throw. And sometimes I think that's a piece to it. The other time is sometimes too, when you're trying to, you sometimes will things to happen when you see things as a quarterback and you're waiting, you're like, okay, if I give that another little tick, I think this guy is going to find some green space or some grass or based upon what the defense is doing. So when you couple those two together, then I think things tend to go up. And so, that's something I've been focusing on with him a ton is, it's an old cliche, but take what is given. But it's so true, and we're really working with all that with Peyton and everybody, understanding better. Again, it all goes to understanding what the defense is trying to do to us. So those are the two things that I saw from Roos that I think maybe lended itself to that a little bit. Sometimes hanging on something a touch too long. And sometimes when you got a big arm, you think you can shoot it in there all the time. And so we've definitely been working on that and that needs to get improved. And so we're hoping we can make strides there.
And then you just mentioned Peyton, so I just kind of wanted to ask about him. What have you seen in terms of where he's picked up from last year?
I think Peyton's done good. Peyton's tremendous. Really does a tremendous job mentally. He's physically gifted athletically, and I think the biggest piece for him is being in the new system again in the fall. I think he started to grow towards the end of the year, and again I think things are beginning to slow down for him a little bit. And that's what he needs to happen because he's very high energy and we need him to slow down a little bit for him. And I think that's been occurring so far from what I've seen because he does a great job, really knows things inside and out and has the ability to help us there and manage that part on the field. And now I think it's just coupling and playing within each play and with your body position and getting that done. So he's had a solid spring to point as well.
Thank you.
We have time for a couple more before Coach has to go. We'll go to Matt Wenzel, and then we'll wrap it up with Stephen Brooks. Matt?
Hey, Jay, to stay on Peyton, he had those 3 games where he got in after Rocky came out. But the start at the end of the year, how much do you think that maybe changed his outlook just to be able to get the ball at the start of the game and not enter when you're down by double digits and kind of get that fresh slate as far as his confidence and his ability to approach?
Yeah, no, I think that definitely helps playing that spot. Sometimes it's always easy for the backup to come in. You see backups come in and have some great games sometimes because there's kind of there. They're not as preparing as the starter does. So I think to have him go through that there at the end with the Penn State game was really big. And he came out, as we know, first series wasn't very good. As you kind of know, he kind of willed some things to happen. He threw that interception right away. But then after that, he kind of got settled in. And I thought that was a big step for him. And I think that bodes well for his confidence. And then he really played very solid for the rest of that game. And so I do think it matters. I do think it helps. There's nothing that can substitute for experience and getting out there when you got to do it. And particularly when you're going to be the guy from day one. And he knew that. And so, I think that's a big tip for him.
And with how much to having your top 4 receivers back, kind of, with the, obviously there's a quarterback competition, but with having those 4 guys back, how much does that help whoever gets the job? Because you have some reliable guys.
Yeah, I think it helps us tremendously. I really like our position there and the way those guys have come along with Coach Hawk has been good. So yeah, that's going to be huge, with those guys there. And yeah, I think it would definitely benefit him. And because those guys, again, are at a new level, they understand things better. And a lot of that whole deal we've all been talking about is a little bit that quarterback receiver relationship and understanding those guys better. Now I think we understand them better, and hopefully that's going to help us perform better and get it where it needs to be at a higher level.
Thanks, Jay.
Our last question, I'll go back to Stephen Brooks.
Hey, Jay, I wanted to ask, how important is it to have this spring to get a look at guys like Noah Kim and Theo Day? Maybe I'm assuming here, forgive me if I am, but I imagine last fall you probably had to sort of cut that field kind of quick to 1 or 2 guys and really focus on them. To get this time to look at the other 2 younger guys, obviously Hamp's there as well, but what can this spring bring for them, you think, just in terms of your evaluation of them?
Yeah, no, I think it's very important, Stephen. I mean, I tried in the fall because everything was so new and with the lack of spring, Rocky and Hamp Theo and Peyton got a lot of it. But then I had to go quick and change it once we got into the game mode. And so to have this time now is really beneficial for Noah and Theo and that, and Hamp as well, trying to develop him. He just has gotten here. But so it's good, now as we get further along in spring, and then we'll kind of see how things evolve, that's going to have to go, because we got to get the guys ready. They got to go take the snaps. And we're really in the process of doing that now. But yes, we're definitely trying to, I guess, a couple things. One, to kind of evaluate those guys in a little better form and see what they can do. And then hopefully, again, the experience piece, and get them reps and bring them up to speed, and trying to get both things accomplished if we can.
Thanks very much.
Our coach, really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us today.
All right. Thanks, guys. Stay safe. Be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be back in about 15 minutes. Thank you.